Yo! I'm Conkuro, and this is my anime cosplaying Ironman. I've created fashionscape designs for 100 plus anime characters from a wide variety of my favorite shows into the world of Gielinor. Based on the difficulty of their items, each character was ranked into 5 different tiers: the Academy, Genin, Chunin, Jonin, and last but not least, the Kage tier. I will use a spreadsheet I created to randomly generate characters to decide how to progress the account. So, if you like anime and or just weird old school RuneScape snowflake irons, then I definitely suggest you stick around to see who we end up as on today's episode of Conkuro Cosplays. Ooh woo! Yo, and welcome to episode 1 of my Conkuro cosplay series. If you're interested in more details about the setup and rules for this account, then check out episode 0 of the series, where I go over some of my inspirations for making the account, general rules I'll be following, and take a quick look at the Excel sheet that I set up and how I determine which characters end up in what tier. Long story short, I'll be randomly generating anime characters I made fashionscape designs for, and progressing this Ironman account to obtain the items needed to cosplay as each character. That's enough for the intro. Now let's see who our first character is going to be. Look at that. While I was waiting around in Lumbridge to generate my first character, I kissed a frog and received my first collection log slot in the account. I was ready to generate my first character of the series, so I went live at twitch.tv/Conkuro11. Follow for spoilers on the account and just good vibes in general. And I pulled up my spreadsheet and generated my first character. So let's go ahead and send it. We're going to generate our first character from the Academy tier. Here is the list of characters. We've got 21 different characters in the Academy tier, and we're going to randomly generate from one of those. And let's see who we get. Oh, I'm nervous. Alright, let's see who we get. Whoo! Natsu. Alright, I don't have the image generation working, so let me go ahead and add the picture in for that right now. Whoo, look at that boy! Alright, we're gonna have to go get a haircut and everything too then. Alright, let's save that. Natsu, the first character. Now that we know what character we're going to be cosplaying as, I wanted to go over a quick overview of the items needed and what the grind is going to look like. Here's a look at what Natsu looks like in the anime. And this is also the picture that I used to inspire my fashionscape design. Natsu is actually a pretty exciting first character for me to get because he's from the show Fairy Tail, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend. And it's also the first anime that I watch with my fiance, so it's kind of fitting that it's the first character for this account. To complete this cosplay, there's a total of 4 items that we're going to need, the first of which is the gnome scarf, which is modeled after the scarf that Natsu wears, which, fun fact, was actually given to him by his dad. I think it's his dad? It's a dragon? I'm not sure. Watch the anime. The gnome scarf can be obtained through the gnome restaurant minigame and by doing hard deliveries to Captain Derkin or Captain Ninto. The next item is the Shazian plate body tier 1. Shockingly enough, there aren't any shirtless vest options in old school RuneScape, so this is the second best I could do. This does show off the character's arms, so I think it looks pretty nice for the outfit. The tier 1 plate body can be obtained by fighting the tier 1 soldier in the Shazian combat ring. However, in order to do so, you do need to get 60% Shazian favor first, so we will spend some time healing soldiers. Next up is the Desert Pants, which can be purchased from the greatest salesman in the world at Ali's Discount Wares in Al Kharid after completion of the Rogue Traders mini-quest. The Rogue Traders mini-quest will require completion of the Feud, Rune Mysteries, and Ichlurin's Little Helper. And last, but most certainly not least, we have the Moon Clan Boots. The Moon Clan Boots require completion of the Lunar Diplomacy quest, which in itself has a whole heap of requirements. For quest completions, we're looking at the Firminic Trials, Lost City, Rune Mysteries, Shiloh Village, which requires Jungle Potion and Druidic Ritual, and for skills, we need 5 Herblore, 61 Crafting, 40 Defense, 49 Firemaking, 65 Magic, 60 Mining, and 55 Woodcutting. Now that all the items have been introduced, let's take a look and compare the anime Natsu to the old school RuneScape Natsu. I'm actually really happy with how this fashionscape turned out. I think this looks pretty close to the anime Natsu, so you let me know down in the comments though what you think. Give me a rating out of 10, how close you think it is to the anime Natsu, or just if you want to rate the fashionscape. With all that being said though, let's finally jump into the account. First stop is the Falador Barber, so we can get ourselves a nice haircut. I want to kick things off by training some agility over at the iconic Tree Gnome Stronghold agility course. And in order to get some charter funds to get over there, I'm stealing some GP from the locals. We got ourselves a couple hundred GP, and I think that should be plenty for us to head over and start training agility at the Tree Gnome Stronghold. But first, a quick pit stop so we can change our hair to light pink. Ah, much better. Moved around some boxes, and apparently that makes me good enough to enter the gates into their city. And it was finally time to complete our first lap of the Tree Gnome Stronghold agility course. And the completion of our first lap also gives us level 2 agility. Only a couple laps later, and here's level 10 agility, which means we're ready to head back to the Draenor rooftop course. So I made my way over to Draenor Village and started running the rooftop agility course there. I did get my first mark of grace, and I am going to collect these and just stack them up in the bank until I get a character that requires me to get a piece of graceful, or I got a lot of different colored graceful items. So until then, we'll stack them up in the bank. There's level 25 agility out of the 32 we need for Shiloh Village, but I think I'm going to take a break and knock out some beginner quests. Rune Mysteries completed, which is a prereq for Lunar Diplomacy. There's Druidic Ritual completed, which is a prereq for Jungle Potion, which is a prereq for Shiloh Village, which is a prereq for Lunar Diplomacy. This might be a little bit random, but I was thinking that I would be able to safe spot the tier 1 Shazian soldier for their armor, and I started training up some range. And it turns out that, the combat ring is melee only, but anyways, here's level 10 range. And there's level 5 cooking from cooking the meat from the unnecessary cow slaughter. There's level 6 cooking, so maybe it wasn't so unnecessary after all, because we were also able to get level 7, 8, 9, and 10 cooking out of the way from the cow slaughter. I will eventually need level 42 cooking to be able to make the chocolate bomb, which is one of the possible delivery items in the gnome restaurant minigame, which is how I get the gnome scarf, so these early levels are good to knock out. Whoa. A working street sign in RuneScape. That's kind of cool. And now that I knew that the Shazian combat ring was melee only, I started to train up my combat skills on the goblins in the iconic spot just east of Lumbridge. Quick pit stop in Al-Kharid to upgrade my melee weapon to an iron scimitar. And then we made our way back to the cow pen for some more cow slaughtering. Level 10 strength. Decided to take a quick break from the combat training and knock out some of the Shazian favor. I will eventually need 60% to enter the combat ring anyways, so we'll just start things off by healing some soldiers here. And a couple minutes later, there's 60% Shazian favor. We can now take on the combat ring whenever I feel confident in my melee stats. Speaking of melee stats, there is level 5 defense, level 10 defense, and that puts us at base 10s for attack, strength, and defense, and level 13 combat. Decided it was a good time for a weapon upgrade, so I swung by the Stronghold of Security, grabbed a couple K GP, and then made my way back to Al-Kharid and grabbed myself a Steel Scimitar. Looking like a real Giga Chad. With our newly acquired Steel Scimitar, we made our way over to the beaches of Hosidius, found ourselves a nice cozy spot here at Sand Crabs, and started to AFK the combat stats up a little bit more. And here is 30 attack rolling in, which is actually putting us at base 30s for attack, strength, and defense, which I think will be plenty good for when we take on the tier 1 Shazian soldier in the combat ring. Picked up a couple of goodies during the AFK sand crab grind, so we've got an XP lamp we're going to put on herb lore, which gives us 4 herb lore. And let's see if we get anything exciting out of a casket or a mystery box. Nothing, and yep, that's right, nothing. Mime random for a chance at some of the mime outfit, and unfortunately we just get the emote, but I will be doing these random events because I do have characters that have random event items, and whenever I get those items I'll add the characters to the spreadsheet. Started training some thieving at the Hosidius cake stall because I eventually will need 30 for the feud quest. And here is level 25 thieving, which allows me to steal from the Hosidius fruit stalls. So I'm going to knock out the favor so I can just have access to that for some quick thieving XP. And that little thieving grind did get us up to 227 cakes in the bank, so that will be good for us to have some starter food. But for now, we're heading to the fields to get our Hosidius favor. And after a short stint in the fields and some hard labor, we've got 5% Hosidius favor, which means we can ditch the plow and spam click some fertilizer and saltpeter in our inventory. After some of the best clicks that you've probably ever seen in your life, we are able to turn in our buckets of sulfurous fertilizer to the lady over here in Hosidius, and that gives us 15% favor. We're not going to go all the way to 100 for now. 15% is good enough to unlock the fruit stall. I was doing some grinding on mobile, but wanted to be able to get a clip of 30 thieving, so I started woodcutting and fletching, as those are requirements for Fremnik Trials, which I need to complete later down the road anyways. Finishing off the level from the mobile grind, here is level 40 woodcutting. We obviously cannot forget level 30 thieving, which is the requirement I need to be able to do the feud quest. Before we could start the feud quest, we do need to make a pit stop here in Varrock and return a lost cat to Gertrude here for the completion of Gertrude's cat. I don't know if my doctor's told me yet, but I definitely got ADHD, because instead of doing the feud quest, we're going to start doing some rune crafting. I want to get started on rune crafting and unlocking Guardians of the Rift with the end goal of doing lunar diplomacy in mind. I am going to need help getting the magic levels and money for the crafting levels that I need for that quest. And Guardians of the Rift is going to be a good way to not only get runes for the magic levels, but also get some GP from selling the runes and be able to purchase supplies for crafting. To kick off the rune crafting grind, I mined some pure essence through Aubrey here in Varrock. Crafted those into air runes to get the level that I needed for the Enter the Abyss mini quest. And then after completion of that, I was able to unlock Guardians of the Rift by completing the Temple of the Eye quest. And the last bit of preparation for the rune crafting Guardians of the Rift mage / crafting grind, I picked up a mithril pickaxe to help make mining the essence in the minigame a little bit easier and faster. With all that rune crafting mumbo jumbo out of the way, I decided I was finally ready to go for my first cosplay item on the account and step foot into the Shazian combat ring. The time had come, the battle had begun, and I must admit, an intense, incredibly exciting battle it was. But we finally came out on top and took down the tier 1 Shazian soldier, just for him to drop his greaves. So we are going to go ahead and just collect the entire outfit here. But obviously we are looking for the tier 1 Shazian plate body. And on the 4th KC, we got it. We finally got our first cosplay item on the account, the Shazian tier 1 plate body. I'm not sure if these always drop in the same order. I probably should look that up, but I don't feel like it. But that is pretty hype. We got one more item to get, but the important one has been acquired. Just one more KC on the tier 1 soldier, and we finish off the Shazian tier 1 armor. The cosplay bank tab has officially begun. As we obtain cosplay items over the course of this account, I'm going to go ahead and throw them all into this tab in the order that we get them, and I'm really excited to watch it grow over the life of this account. Jungle potion completed. Then, for some reason, I thought it'd be a good idea to get 30 agility at the Al-Kharid agility course. I thought, hey, I could get some GP and agility at the agility pyramid. Turns out I was very wrong. So, I decided to head to Guardians of the Rift and start up that grind, and I did my first couple of searches. And we didn't get anything too exciting other than our first bit of Abyssal Pearls. Another nice thing about Guardians of the Rift is I will get some passive crafting XP. So here's level 10 crafting. I decided to grind up 31 crafting for Lost City the only way a kid who played RuneScape way back in the day knows how to, and that is picking and spinning flax into bowstring. Just like that, there's 31 crafting and the skill requirement for Lost City out of the way. In order to deal with the tree spirit in the Lost City quest, I'm going to use the safe spot and mage it since I need magic levels for lunar diplomacy anyways. So I picked up a hat and a staff and started my magic training. And for the location to train my magic, I'm going to use this fence here and safe spot the guards just west of Varrock. Well, I knew the hardcore status wasn't going to last forever. I was training magic on those guards like you saw in the last clip, and I was on mobile, may or may not have been drifting off into a slumber. And I opened my eyes one time and I was standing in Death's Domain. Sadly, we only made it to 426 total level on the hardcore, but like I said, I wasn't too attached to the hardcore status. I knew I was going to do something silly and lose it anyways, so let's review how the death happened since I was on mobile and couldn't get a clip of it. Like I mentioned, I was at this spot west of Varrock, safe spotting the guards around this fence. However, I was falling asleep, playing on mobile, did not have auto retaliate on, which was a big mistake, and accidentally tapped so I would walk around the fence, which dragged the guard out of the safe spot and meant that I would stand there getting attacked, not retaliating, which I probably would have been able to kill the guard, but instead the guard took my hardcore status and I forever have beef with the guards of West Varrock Bank. Losing the hardcore status won't stop the grind. Here's some more GOTR pulls, and we see our first intricate pouch. Sadly, the pouch just gives us some astral runes. My rune crafting is now high enough level to do cosmic runes, so I figured that was a good time to take a break from Guardians of the Rift and knock out the Lost City quest. We disturbed the tree, brought the tree spirit out, ran to the safe spot, got ourselves 32 magic, and took the tree spirit down. And while I was here anyways, I decided to chop a shit ton of Draymond branches. There's Lost City completed. So now I can craft cosmic runes to my heart's content, which will help with the Guardians of the Rift grind. Some more reward pulls, and we get the Catalytic Talisman, which is pretty hype because this is useful to get into the Death Altar for the Morning's End Part 2 quest. Level 30 mining. Now that I've got some runes kind of saved up in the bank from doing Guardians of the Rift, I decided to go to the OG Hill Giant spot and do some magic training, where we got level 33 magic. Beekeeper's Top when I made my way over to Tree Gnome's Stronghold. I want to get the Grand Tree knocked out so I can get started on the Gnome Scarf grind. And in order to do that, I need to be able to do the Gnome Restaurant minigame. There's the Grand Tree completed, which gives us access to the Gnome Glider teleportation system, and we can now get started on the Gnome Restaurant grind. The highest cooking level needed for cuisine for the Gnome Restaurant minigame is 42 to make the chocolate bomb, so I headed over to Catherby to do some cooking and fishing. And there's level 20 cooking. And the final level we need for now, level 42 cooking. We can now make the highest level cuisine for the Gnome Restaurant minigame and get started on the grind for the Gnome Scarf. 41 woodcutting, as I've still been woodcutting and fletching on mobile, by the way. And up to level 40 fletching from the mobile grind. Before we jump into the Gnome Restaurant minigame, let's review who we can deliver to for a chance at the Gnome Scarf. There are two gnomes that when assigned a hard delivery give you a chance of receiving the Gnome Scarf. One of the gnomes, Captain Ninto, required me to complete the fishing contest to be able to have access to reach him and complete a delivery. Captain Derrikin, the other gnome, can be found on top of the PvP arena in Al-Kharid with no requirements to access. And I also completed the Tree Gnome Village quest to unlock the Spirit Tree transportation system to help with getting around the map for the deliveries. The Gnome Restaurant minigame is actually pretty easy once you get the hang of it. There's 13 different gnome foods and 7 different gnome drinks, so I decided to prep a couple of each of those in my bank before starting the grind. To start the minigame, you talk to John Jr. in the Tree Gnome Stronghold, and he will ask you to bring one of those foods or drinks to a gnome somewhere in Gielinor. For easy jobs, the gnome will be located somewhere within the walls of the Tree Gnome Stronghold, and hard jobs are spread out all over Gielinor. And upon completion of a delivery, you have a chance to receive various different rewards depending on which gnome you delivered to. Okay, with that review and all of the prep work out of the way, let's go to John Jr. and accept our first hard delivery. First delivery completed, and we get a mint cake. Let's go. Collection log slot on the first delivery. I came all the way out to Yanil to do a hard delivery, only to find out that it's inside the Wizards Guild, which I currently do not have access to. So here I am just standing here yelling, "Let me in." So once I failed the hard delivery, I decided to go back and cancel it, which meant I had to take on an easy task. Otherwise, I had to wait like 5 minutes before taking on another hard task. Once I realized you could do this to reset the hard delivery, I started doing this until I would get either Captain Derrikin or Ninto, and if I didn't get one of those two, I would just do an easy delivery around Tree Gnome Stronghold. I did decide to do this one in Fally since it would be an easy one, and I ended up getting the Gnome Ball, which is pretty dope. Alright, this is our second delivery to Captain Derrikin, and to see what we get, we'll tune into the live reaction featuring Tedious in the background.
I feel like at this point we might just get another item and get item 1100 already.
No way, that was on the second one. Let's go, dude. Let's go. Oh my gosh, we're done. That's officially our second out of 4 items required for the Natsu cosplay. Let's throw the scarf into the cosplay tab along with the Shazian plate body. Oh yeah, look at that. With the gnome scarf acquired, I decided to move into the desert and complete the feud quest so I could get the desert pants. With the completion of the feud quest, I can now do the Road Traders mini quest, which includes talking to Aubrey and Varrock to get the rune shop, the blackjack dealer in Polnavich, and Simon in Sophanim, which would require me to do Eachlurin's Little Helper quest. With the Rogue Trader mini quest complete, I can now purchase the desert pants from Allie Morrison, the greatest salesman in the world, and that is now 3 out of the 4 cosplay items required. And the cosplay tab continues to grow. With the only item left remaining being the Moon Clan boots, it was time to start grinding out the requirements for Lunar Diplomacy, and we're going to go through that speedrun style. There's 40 defense, I got PK'd while training prayer for overheads, camo hat collection log, Shiloh Village quest complete, I met the Splash Bros, From Trials completed, copped myself the Ring of the Elements because it has good teleports, 65 magic, 49 fire making, and 55 wood cutting. I lost the clip of 60 mining, but here's 57 to prove that I did it, 61 crafting, and finally it was time for me to go into the dream world and complete the Lunar Diplomacy quest. All that was left to do to complete the cosplay was swing by the bank, grab my cash stack, pop over to the store, and purchase the Moon Clan boots. However, when I was at the bank grabbing my cash stack, I deposited the Seal of Passage, so I got kicked off the island when I went to use the shop. After a super embarrassing walk of shame back to Lunar Isle, I purchased the Moon Clan boots, and the Natsu cosplay was officially complete. While I showcase off the cosplay design, I want to review the account progress up until this point. From account creation, it took me 5 days and 17 hours to complete the Natsu cosplay. Along the way, we achieved 871 total level and almost 2.3 mil total XP. I completed 19 quests, 44 of the diary achievements, only 1 combat task, and we are currently up to 25 collections logged. Taking a look at our individual stats, we've got magic as our highest with 65, and some other notable stats that are 60 plus are rune crafting, and mining. If you want to see what character I cosplay as next, make sure to subscribe. And while you're at it, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up and leave a comment letting me know some of your favorite anime characters that you would like to see added to my spreadsheet. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to say that you're an absolute legend, and TYTY for watching.